I should have been a farmer with a hoe on my back. But the system said I was a legendary hero and can kill the demon king. But I just want to stay in the newbie village and live the rural life I wanted. But the gears of fate have already begun to turn. The devil finally came to me. Not long ago, I was just an ordinary office worker. My only pleasure was watching short videos on my way to work and watching rural idyllic life. I just sighed casually. I really envy this kind of life. But the next moment, I was transported to this world full of monsters. But under the guidance of the system, I gradually learned survival skills and finally lived the rural life I wanted. The system kept urging me to leave the novice village, learn swordsmanship and magic skills to destroy the demon lord. But it seemed that it could do nothing but pop up windows. So I still farmed and hunted regardless. Until one day, the system finally crashed and disappeared. Without the system's disturbance, I worked harder with my hoe. One day, over the newbie village, an uninvited guest suddenly appeared, and the visitor was the demon lord Elizabeth. 18 years ago, the demon lord launched a war against all races. With the power of the demon lord, the kingdoms of all races were also breached. With the infighting and rebellion of the human race also declared defeat. Thus, the demon lord Elizabeth officially ascended to the throne. She became the only king in the world. In the human kingdom, Barrow still believes that the legendary hero would defeat the devil. But the next second, he was slapped in the face by the demon's lackey, Wes. But just as Weiss was about to solve him, but was stopped by the great demon queen Elizabeth. Humble human, you'd better explain to me what the legendary hero is all about. Otherwise, I have 1,000 ways to make you suffer more than death. It turned out that Balu heard that someone in the future saw the legendary hero and pulled out the holy sword, and the legendary hero will also lead humans to end the rule of demons. But if the legendary hero wants to challenge the demon lord, he must pull out the Excalibur inserted in the hall. The demon king thought things were getting more interesting. So he waited in the human capital, waiting for the legendary hero to arrive. But he waited for 18 years. During the 18 years of the female demon lord's rule, all races lived and worked in peace and contentment, making the land of heroes prosperous. There was even an anti-hero alliance, opposing the arrival of the hero. Even Barrow, who previously opposed the demon lord, also became the minion of the demon king. But in the next moment, the devil's claws came. Under the powerful pressure, he vomited all the river sewage he drank. You'd better explain to me. Where is the legendary hero? Barrow was frightened by this sudden scene, was scared into a cold sweat, but he stammered and couldn't explain anything. But at this moment, another sycophant, Wes, flattered him, but was slapped on the iron plate the next moment. The demon lord's tail slapped him directly, and then threw Barrow out, and hit the wall heavily. I have reached the top of the world. Know the world's best. I didn't wait for him to challenge me, and then become a stepping stone for his fame. If you don't come to challenge me, I will come to you. Then he held the hilt of the holy sword. Everyone was shocked by this scene, and then a terrifying energy burst out. This energy also made the Demon King feel a little sweat. Then, with a loud shout from the Demon Lord, a more terrifying energy also swept over. Then the Demon King pulled out the Excalibur that only the legendary hero can pull out. The Demon King looked at the holy sword in his hand. He couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Who said only the legendary hero can pull it out? Suddenly, he felt consciousness from the sword. Then, the consciousness directly locked on the newbie village. Seeing this scene, Elizabeth was overjoyed. So you're hiding here. The next second, she directly activated the teleportation array and disappeared from everyone's sight. Meanwhile, on the other side, I was looking at the fruits of my day's labor. I couldn't help but sigh the beauty of life. But the originally sunny sky suddenly thundered and dark clouds. Then, Elizabeth slowly emerged from the thunderstorm. Elizabeth looked down at me with a slight smile on her lips. But at this moment, I ran towards home in a flash. I quickly picked up the dried fish hanging in the yard. But this is my pet, Wang Kai shouted loudly towards the sky. And I was also attracted by his abnormal behavior. I looked up to the sky. I saw a human-shaped shadow floating in the air. Seeing my slow reaction, Elizabeth couldn't help but doubt my so-called identity as a legendary hero. But just in case I was pretending to be a pig and eat a tiger, she decided to verify it. A golden light suddenly attacked me. I, who had never practiced magic skills, I was so scared that I raised my hands subconsciously and closed my eyes. Unexpectedly, the incoming beam actually turned a 360-degree bend, and the holy sword appeared in my hand. Seeing that I was recognized by the holy sword, Elizabeth, I couldn't help but feel that things were getting more interesting. Because under his perception, I was a novice without any magic. But the recognition of the Alpha Sword is correct. Elizabeth immediately said she would kill me. But my Wang Kai stood up to oppose it first. He would protect me. I looked at the terrifying formation in the air. I was relying on my dog. I immediately chose to drop the holy sword in my hand. I immediately ran to the room without stopping. I was just a rookie. If the devil comes to me, I could only accept my fate. So in the end, let me and this family be wiped out together. I didn't expect that the smile I gave just now was interpreted by Elizabeth as a contemptuous smile. This immediately made Elizabeth furious. This is really an arrogant guy. Die! Then 3 huge stones fell from the sky, which would surely crush the hut into pieces. And used. Wang Kai made a precise calculation of this and immediately entered combat mode and poured out the weapons in his hand. The powerful firepower easily knocked down the incoming boulder. At this time, Elizabeth couldn't help but show a playful smile. But then she looked fearless again and cast the magic of destruction. A giant ball of light appeared in the sky, and thunder rumbled again. The huge energy, enough to wipe out everything around. But Wang Kai's code kept jumping in his eyes, and soon calculated it again, and made an attacking gesture. It opened its small mouth and spat out a small black ball, and flew towards the Demon Queen Elizabeth rapidly. But it just dodged with a slight flash and dodged Wang Kai's attack. The Demon King thought it was just a dog and made a dying struggle. But the little black ball hit the magic behind him. In an instant, the little black ball exploded in all directions, surrounded by the doomsday magic. The next second, it actually swallowed it. The sky suddenly cleared up. The devil frowned tightly. The once invincible magic of destruction now was easily broken by a dog. It's unimaginable how powerful the man in the room was. What the Demon King didn't expect was that I was already lying on the bed obediently to accept the judgment of fate. The devil looked down at Wang Kai and fell into deep thought. Unexpectedly, from beginning to end, he had always been underestimated. But then the murderous intent appeared in his eyes. But don't be too complacent. After all, I haven't used my full strength so far. Now, you, this rude person, I will show you what true terror is. Under the powerful pressure of momentum, Wang Kai also switched to combat mode again, ready to fight. And then there was another violent collision. The energy burst, illuminating the entire sky with colorful light. I don't know how long it passed. I woke up groggy and longed for everything in the house. I was instantly confused. Why am I still alive? Shouldn't I have gone to heaven in the secret passage? I opened the door carefully, looked out. I saw the devil was already bloodthirsty, holding Wang Kai's head tightly in his hand. And there was a sizzling current around. Elizabeth threw it down and walked towards me slowly. I'm really sorry. I have completely destroyed the mold. Completely destroyed. Hearing this, I felt like a needle in a haystack. I quickly explained that it didn't matter. I hope we can have a good talk. Elizabeth said yes, but only after I kill you. However, before she finished speaking, her body began to wobble, like everyone else. As a gentleman, I held her in my arms. But the unconscious demon lord could no longer maintain his horns, and even his armor began to slowly dissipate. I was in the prime of my life. I was at a loss for a moment. I longed for her flawless body, and a hot stream gushed out the next moment. I don't know how long it passed. The devil suddenly opened his eyes. He never thought that he was invincible. But now he lost so embarrassingly. He looked at the handcuffs behind him. Did he want to imprison the king? And show the world? To show her power? Elizabeth kept concentrating her magic on the handcuffs. But the handcuffs remained motionless. So it seems that this is a legendary mold she has never seen before. I was holding dumplings and hot soup and pushed the door open. Elizabeth looked at me. She was immediately beautiful. Kill me if you want. Don't even think I'll bow my head to you. But I was shocked. This devil is really terrifying, but this is my only chance to survive. I must seize it. I immediately explained to him that the handcuffs were just in case. After all, you know your own terrifying power. And there must be some misunderstanding between us. Otherwise, I'll unlock the handcuffs for you. Let's have a good talk. As a woman, Elizabeth understood it in a different way. You think you're something, but you're just a nobody. In fact, you are just a little punk. Elizabeth took what I just said as a threat. During the conversation, I had already opened the handcuffs in her hand and I showed her again that I had no ill intentions. The powerful demon lord also knows the truth of being able to bend and stretch. Now he will endure it temporarily and will repay him in the future. But at this moment, I was already so nervous that I was shaking. I immediately said you should rest well and don't go out. I thought everyone might be confused. Why I didn't take advantage of the demon lord's coma, do something indescribable. This is a world of swords and magic. As the demon lord, it's normal for him to have a resurrection still. So as long as I show no threat, I can live happily. I didn't want to be happy. He was once again interpreted by the demon lord as mocking him, as a picture of mocking him. Since the devil Elizabeth and I lived together, she studies action movies at home every day. The once slender waist has now turned into an unsightly bucket. At this time, has become a super fat house with 250 caddies. But I must get her protection. Otherwise, I might be instantly trampled by the demons. Not long after, I brought out hot soup again. I've prepared lunch, but even the short distance from the sofa to the table. He was too lazy to move, he said, and then turned his finger. He was about to summon his wings. The once overwhelming demonic wings have now become 2.5 centimeters small wings. Fortunately, those slender wings can still carry his fat body. But the devil blamed me at this time. What poison did you put in the potato chips for me? Making me lazier and lazier. This is clearly a guise for food to paralyze me and want me to fall. Hearing this, I patiently explained to him. Potato chips are high in calories, and eating too much will accumulate fat, and people will naturally become lazy. Hearing this, he couldn't help but look at his own belly. But in the next moment, he used the abyss magic to float again. In a short time, the one who was just muttering about being generous, she regained her devilish figure, and even her big breasts became fuller. I was stunned by this sight. It's amazing. Magic can be used in such a way. The Demon King looked at the sumptuous lunch in front of him. Tears of excitement flowed down his mouth again. Then he began to eat voraciously again. I'm not surprised by this. I'll just make more. It doesn't matter if you eat more. But the imaginative demon lord. But the Demon King had a different interpretation. You are still too weak. I'll kill you when you're a fat pig. Thinking of this, the Demon King was once again furious. He has treated me like a pig for a year, and my strength has broken through dozens of times. Now I should have the strength to challenge you. Yes. I calmly took out his favorite pudding. Instantly, Elizabeth's eyes lit up again and returned to her innocent and lovely appearance. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as he eats well, he will calm down. So he's not that difficult to serve. However, outside the novice village, an old man and a woman were frantically running for their lives. And above their heads, there were 3 looming figures. When they looked closely, they were 3 masked mages in purple robes. Several cracks suddenly appeared in the air, coming towards the old man, and the cracks instantly scattered and exploded, surrounding them. The old man raised his giant sword in his hand, and then told his daughter to run for her life. The woman was about to say something with tears in her eyes, But the mage didn't want to see them. The father-daughter relationship instantly condensed into a terrifying ghost fire. The man also roared at this time that it must be quick. He used his strongest move, a golden light hero slash, towards the ghost fire mage. Instantly, a sword cut the ghost fire mage in half. The companion looked at the fallen ghost fire mage. He raised his hand and sucked it into his body. Instantly, his head emerged from his neck. It was the bow in the hands of the girl Deru. 2 green energy beams, and shot towards the other mage. However, he just let out a light breath and easily deflected the 2 energies. He put his hands on the ground, and then he jumped up directly. Instantly, he came to the man's front. He punched the man hard and sent him into the clouds. The man flew hundreds of meters away and hit the hill before stopping. A mouthful of phlegm also spewed out at this time. The girl cried out for her father with tears streaming down. However, another mage flew towards the previous 2 people and slowly absorbed them into his body. Instantly, a 8-meter tall, a 3-headed evil spirit appeared in front of them. The girl looked at everything in front of her. Her eyes went blank. The evil spirit roared at the 2. The writhing mouth was extremely disgusting. Then he drew 2 blue flames with his hands again and attacked them. However, with a loud noise resounding through the ground, the rising dust, covering the father and daughter. The girl looked through the smoke carefully. The next scene immediately stunned her, because what she saw in front of her was a mammoth as big as a mountain. The evil spirit in front of them had been trampled into a ghost. On the top of the mammoth lord, there was a 3-story building. In the building, there was a toad immortal directing the mammoth's actions. On the top of the immortal, there was still an inconspicuous hut. There was also a person standing in front of the hut. When she looked closely, it was actually my pet, Wenkai. I don't know how long it passed. The girl suddenly woke up from her dream. She found herself in a room, and it was quiet. She suddenly remembered that her father was seriously injured. If not treated in time, he might die. Then she ran out immediately, Dad. Dad, you must hold on. But as soon as she opened the door and looked out, the scene in front of her directly stunned her, because at this moment, his father was sniffing his muscles vigorously. And beside him, there were 2 strangers. And I was very excited to see the uncle in front of me. Is this the warrior outside? They are so amazing, seeing me so happy, Wankai. He happily circled around me. But then he was kicked 2.5 meters by the devil, and then glared at Wankai angrily. You stupid dog! Who told you to bring these strangers back? Wankai was scared to tremble by the demon in front of him, because as a loser, the memory of being destroyed by the demon lord emerged again. But at this moment, I was already attracted by his huge muscles. Wow. Wow, so strong. If only I had it. Then the uncle's posture kept changing. Since Mr. Lapping likes it, I won't hide it anymore. Then he directly burned his fighting spirit. His huge muscles directly burst his clothes. My eyes lit up in an instant. I was amazed again. looking at the old father who sells himself, who is selling himself and his art. For a moment, the girl was speechless for a moment. The air suddenly became quiet for 2.5 minutes. Then the uncle said, Yilifu, you finally woke up. I thought to myself, my father is flattering our savior. And I was about to explain to him. But the devil suddenly appeared at this moment. Get out of here quickly. Then Elizabeth walked directly up to Yilifu. With her huge body, which directly pushed Aleph back repeatedly, and then said, I warn you. I came here first. Seeing that the Demon King's jealousy had been aroused, I instantly pulled them apart. Since we have guests, let's go inside and talk. We went into the room. I poured a cup of barley tea for them. The girl picked up the steaming wheat tea in her hand and asked her father, is this the magical potion that can cure you? Hearing this, I scratched my head and then told her that it's just ordinary cold well water. The devil was sitting aside at this time, but with a worried expression. Leping brought 2 weak humans back. Is he going to do some evil experiment again? Can I satisfy your needs? The old man also explained to him at this time. Although his memory was hazy, he could still remember. Leping was working hard to hoe the field. And Master Wen Kai brought us here. Then Leping picked up the kettle beside him to feed me. Then I felt my whole body lifted up. And even my injuries were healed instantly. If it weren't for Leping's rescue, I might never have seen you again. And the girl looked at the holy water in her hand. She couldn't help but exclaim that such a precious thing. Can we really drink it? Seeing this situation, I couldn't help laughing. You adventurers are really interesting. Don't worry. Just drink it freely. Seeing my words, they no longer felt restrained. They drank the barley tea in their hands in one gulp. But suddenly, their pupils suddenly contracted. And then a lot of spiritual energy radiated from their eyes, as if their entire soul had been purified. They instantly felt. They felt like they were in a golden wheat field. The feeling of tranquility and peace. Even the old man couldn't help but get emotional. The two were quiet for a long time. And then, they both felt their magic had reached a new level. The uncle directly changed from 3-star to 4-star. And the girl also upgraded from 1-star mode to a 1st-star magician. And even her mother's elf bloodline was awakened. After witnessing the breakthrough of their realms, both sighed that everything seemed to be meaningless. I thought they were not satisfied, and was about to add another cup for them. The uncle burst into tears and refused, because as mortals they couldn't withstand such torture. At this time, I apologized to them very much, because I had nothing else to entertain them. But they trembled when they heard this, because their bodies couldn't withstand such torture. At this time, I also asked them how they were attacked. The old man also explained to me, because Aleph had elven blood in his body, and his mother is the saint of the elves. But elves are forbidden to intermarry with other races. I interrupted him. So in that case, it was the elves who were chasing you. But the devil denied it first, because the ban on interracial marriage became invalid when the Demon King unified the world. But the uncle said it was a long story, Yilifu's mother went back to the elf sanctuary. Return to the elf sanctuary. The elves let us go. But the apostles of the Dark Guild in the demon realm still wanted to hunt us down. Hearing this, I couldn't help but look at the devil. It's the Dark Guild again. It's the Dark Guild again. Could it be related to Elizabeth? But the devil pointed at me and yelled at me. What do you mean? I've been pregnant with your child for a year. I don't have time to deal with this. Then the devil sat down again. You tell me clearly. The Dark Guild in the demon realm captures elves and what they are doing. And the uncle also told him the reason. Because the people of the Dark Guild are doing mysterious research, trying to resurrect the unified demon queen Elizabeth. The elves are one of their materials. Even those who haven't awakened the elf bloodline will be their target. I thought to myself that he named me and said it had nothing to do with him. But the next moment, the devil kicked me again. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. In this year, how many tricks you have. The girl next to me was about to ask her father. But her father told her not to interfere. The devil came to his senses at this time. He said to the uncle again, who told them that the devil was dead? But the uncle was full of doubts. Because Elizabeth disappeared for 500 years, which is a well-known fact. And according to the literature, the demon lord was killed by the legendary hero. And it is said that the battle lasted for a month. In the end, the hero sacrificed himself, and the devil died together. Hearing this, I was shocked. Elizabeth had only lived for a year. 500 years had passed outside, but the devil was filled with murderous intent. Instantly, the father and daughter were pulled into the bloody consciousness by the devil. And under their feet, the accumulated bones of the defeated minions of the devil. The two were immediately stunned by the scene. The devil also said firmly at this time, "This rumor is false." The father and daughter looked at the murderous eyes and nodded in agreement. And I also told them at this time that I was the legendary hero. Hearing this, the two were so scared that they peed their diapers. Then I pointed to the demon king beside me. He was the Elizabeth they mentioned. The father and daughter spat out another mouthful of phlegm. What kind of ridiculous plot is this? But the demon lord looked displeased at this time, because at this moment I was showing off his glorious deeds in his eyes. He slammed his hand on the table, and then suddenly turned and left, because at this moment he felt that I was just these two weak humans coming back to humiliate him. The devil then slammed the door shut. Even the walls were cracked. And at this time, the uncle said tremblingly, "Mr. Lepping, what are your plans next?" I was also at a loss for words. I said, "Let's calm down first." Late at night, the father and daughter were still whispering about what happened during the day. Unexpectedly, the truth 500 years ago was the devil and the hero fell in love with each other, so he gave up the whole world. But his father told him not to talk about it casually, otherwise we might all die here. But before the words were finished, a familiar voice came again, saying it was so late. "Why haven't you slept yet?" The girl was already trembling with fear. But I suddenly greeted him with a poker face. If you haven't slept so late, why don't you play cards? The uncle was immediately shocked. Could it be that the hero is testing us? The three of them came to the hall and sat down slowly, and I patiently explained the rules of poker to them. The girl couldn't help thinking about it. Could it be as her father said? This is Mr. Lepping's test. At this moment, I decided to start the game. Ready to deal cards. Hearing this, the girl, she couldn't help swallowing nervously and asked the name of the game. And she looked at the cards on the table, seemed to exude an ominous aura. But I was stunned when I heard this. Because if it was called landlords, people in this world might not understand it. But luckily, a flash of inspiration came to me. I immediately decided to call the game Dragon Slayer. However, the father and daughter were almost scared to pee. Even the big devil above their heads, the great demon king who used the invisibility technique, was very puzzled about this guy's mind. Why he has so many tricks, which is really puzzling. I explained to them again. The general idea is that two heroes need to work together to defeat the dragon, and we would decide whether to be heroes, to decide whether to be a hero or a nightmare. The father and daughter suddenly understood. It seems that it is indeed a test for themselves. At this time, in their eyes, was a terrifying existence. And I started dealing the cards at this time. I picked up the playing cards in my hand and urged them to reveal their cards quickly. Eliav trembled and reached out for the playing cards. But at the moment of contact, they seemed to be taken to another mysterious world. The uncle was also shocked by what he saw. The hero's strength is really terrifying. But at this moment, Eliav suddenly supported himself on the ground, sweat streaming down his face, because the moment he touched the poker, as if he had lost all his magic. And the uncle also comforted him at this time. The rest is up to him. At this time, I forgot that, although I didn't have many big cards in my hand. But they were quite smooth, so I could still have a try. So, I immediately asked if they wanted to be the dragon. But even though the father and daughter held 2 or 3 bombs, they still shook their heads to refuse. So I immediately decided to take the landlord. But looking at the 3 cards that were turned over were not useful to me. I couldn't help but look frustrated. I'm afraid I'm doomed to lose with this hand. But when the father and daughter saw my unhappy face, they trembled all over. Could it be that Mr. Lepping was not satisfied with our performance? I might lose my life. Fortunately, I was kind and friendly. I played the 8 in my hand. The uncle couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But just as he was about to play the card, he suddenly felt that the poker in his hand contained great energy. It turned out that every time he played a card, he had to pay with his vitality. With the uncle throwing the cards out of his hand, one of his fingers also lost its vitality in an instant. And Ilafu looked at the scene in front of him, couldn't help but worry. The uncle endured the pain in his hand and told him not to worry. The girl could only continue helplessly. But looking at the bad cards in my hand, I couldn't help thinking. Because the single card in hand was too small, so I decided to pass. I'll pass first. But the uncle looked astonished when he heard this and sat on the ground. After confirming my affirmative answer again, the uncle had to continue. Mr. Lepping is deliberately making me play cards. to consume my vitality. But now he had to bite the bullet and continue. So he directly played the dragon in his hand. Da Chao, because when he explained the rules just now, told him that this combination was called Fei Long. However, the price of his card was also huge. One of his dice also lost its vitality. With the poker falling, a prehistoric dragon also rose into the air in an instant and directly spat out atomic breath towards me. Seeing this scene, the father and daughter were directly stunned. Oh no, it's over. I just attacked the brave man. I'm doomed now. The scene was also seen by the Demon King. It seems that this game is not simple. But at this moment, I just looked at the poker in my hand and thought, because I couldn't see the magic that happened. The bad cards in my hand were useless. I had no choice but to ask the uncle to continue. And the uncle also played the 3 of clubs at this time. With the girl rejecting me again, I immediately played the 10 in my hand. Seeing that I finally played, they both said they couldn't take it because their lives couldn't withstand the constant consumption. But at this moment, I smiled. I then played a straight. With the sound of the cards falling, and a gust of airwaves spread around. The next moment, a huge wave appeared in front of them. In an instant, and they were submerged in the rough waves. After a long time, the father and daughter finally came to their senses. Let me play the 3 with 2 in my hand. Instantly, a pair of ancient chariots appeared, shouting and charging towards them. The uncle was terrified by the scene in front of him, but still said he couldn't take it. But at this moment, Aleph looked at the poker in his hand. He decided to play it. His father was shocked because it would cost him a lot of vitality. But Aleph did not intend to back down. This time, he was going to protect the best father in the world. The moment the card was laid, over the heads of the father and daughter, an ancient chariot appeared above their heads, approaching me. Instantly, the 2 chariots were in a fight. But a moment later, my ancient chariot was killed by it. The uncle looked at his daughter anxiously, for fear that he would lose his vitality like him, would lose his vitality. To my surprise, Yilifu was unscathed. I thought they were getting carried away with the card game. I explained to them randomly, it's right to break up your cards at the right time. It's right to protect your teammates. But the most important thing is to have determination. Hearing this, the uncle looked at his lost finger thoughtfully. Could it be that Lord Lapping was hinting at something? But at this moment, my face became gloomy. But it's too late for you now. Hearing this, the father and daughter were suddenly restless. Could it be that they were really going to die here? Even the Demon King felt something was wrong. I felt an ominous aura was just around the corner. When everyone was confused, I threw the King of Hearts in my hand. Instantly, the father and daughter, they were pulled back into that terrifying consciousness. In the consciousness of the father and daughter, a huge crack appeared directly. Then, a huge clown emerged from it. The father and daughter were directly scared to the ground. The Demon King was even more shocked, because the clown in the wound was a 3-star demon god like himself. The clown demon sensed the Demon King. He turned around and looked at Elizabeth. sneaking around and peeking at something, and then said with a playful face, "Be careful. My knife doesn't have eyes. I'll kill you." Seeing this, Elizabeth, although she said she wasn't scared, but her body honestly raised her hand to say no. Unexpectedly, she has been humble these days. Only barely reached the 3-star demon level by relying on Leping's feeding. But he summoned it casually. Seeing this, the father and daughter both realized that they were powerless, and both said their last words. Then the uncle suddenly coughed violently, and blood spewed from his mouth. And his playing cards also fell on the table. Thinking that his old disease had relapsed, I hurriedly asked. Suddenly, I saw the dropped playing cards. It turned out that the uncle could have won long ago. Just letting me win. Just playing with me. I just thought I was very good. In fact, I might have disturbed their rest. I quickly collected the playing cards on the table. The clown demon above my head let out a scream and then disappeared. After hurriedly saying goodbye to the father and daughter and turned to leave, the father and daughter who felt like they were alive again. They were directly scared into insanity. This legendary hero is really unpredictable. But when he saw 2 weak humans and the demon king who was intact, he suddenly realized it seems that Leping playing cards is fake, and using it to teach me a lesson is the real purpose. The next day, when they woke up, the father and daughter left in a hurry. In a hurry, I prepared some small gifts to see them off. Watching the happy backs of the two leaving, I couldn't help feeling happy. After a long time, the uncle finally stopped his steps and gasped for breath. It turned out that after I left last night, the devil suddenly appeared. The devil cast a magic spell and attacked the father and daughter, the red light magic, and flew directly towards their necks. But it didn't take their lives, but only on their necks, leaving a runic mark. At this time, Elizabeth's voice also sounded. I order you to leave here tomorrow, and not to reveal any information about this place. Otherwise, the curse mark on your neck will immediately take your heads off. Hearing this, the two nodded repeatedly to agree. At this time, Elif looked at the scene in front of him and felt very familiar. It turned out that they had returned to the place where they first passed out, and there were footprints of the prehistoric giant on the ground. But what they didn't know was that Wang Kai was also observing them not far away. While the uncle was running wildly, Wang Kai also turned on the thrusters behind them to help them leave quickly. But at this time, Wang Kai suddenly sensed a monster approaching. But when he thought of meddling last time, he was beaten up by a fierce woman. This time he just ignored it. He jumped into a different space and then disappeared in place. And at this moment, in front of the father and daughter, there appeared countless apostles of the Dark Guild. Among them, there was a twin-star great demon spirit, which was growing stronger. Seeing the huge gap in strength between Elif, quickly grabbed his father and fled for their lives. But the uncle remembered what I said last night. The most important thing is to, with determination, and took out the poker I gave him just now. Because he was once called the Iron Boss. The airwave emitted by the playing cards shocked the surrounding minions to pieces. Even the great demon spirit showed a horrified expression. Then the uncle summoned the card director. with strong determination, made the card in the air, showed his wife's image. Then the wife who appeared in the air took out her elven holy sword. A green light sword cut a powerful airwave on the lawn. And that huge power also directly blocked the dark apostle in front of him. Were slaughtered, but was caught by the great demon spirit with one hand. But suddenly he also sensed a hint of danger. Then he clenched the sword with both hands, but was eventually killed by the powerful swordsman. The uncle also put away his cards at this time, and the figure of his wife also slowly disappeared in the air. The uncle who realized my experience couldn't help but show gratitude. And his wife's figure, a new profession appeared in the land of heroes. The card master. After a period of noise, my novice hut once again welcomed a brief period of peace. And my fruit hybridization method has also achieved great success, but no one shared the joy of this harvest. So I always feel like something is missing, because sometimes my heart is restless. I also want to get in touch with the outside world and meet the warriors or elves outside, and even the evil demon king outside. Hey, sometimes it's just like that. But I'm so weak, so I just give up. But suddenly there was a sound beside me. The devil also asked with a relaxed face at this time, "What are you thinking about with such a gloomy face?" I couldn't help but reveal my thoughts to him. The king looked at my arrogant face. He immediately invited me to go out. Hearing this, I was overjoyed. I confirmed again that with the demon king's protection, I could go out with peace of mind. The king drank the drink in his hand. No nonsense. Hurry up and change clothes. Without much words, we both changed our clothes and got ready to go. My pet Wang Kai also appeared quietly at this time, indicating that he was ready. The king snapped his fingers casually, and then the teleportation door appeared out of thin air, pointing to the portal in front of me and said, "We can go to the nearest town." When he was about to step through the portal, I directly stopped him. I trembled and made 3 rules for him. You can't leave me behind after going out. And keep your emotions stable. Keep a low profile. One more thing is that you will come back with me after going out, right? But the Demon King understood it differently. Without my permission, you can't leave. Put away your bad temper. Don't use magic to destroy me. Experience the happiness of ordinary people. But for these conditions, the king agreed. Because the outside world. Elizabeth was not interested at all. But then, she made a request with a serious face. She slowly approached me. She said, "When I come back, I want to do it with you." What? To make a super filling mixed fruit pudding. I was relieved immediately. It was just a fruit pudding. I immediately said, "No problem. We'll go right away." Just as I stepped into the portal disappeared in place, but left my pet Wen Kai behind. When I came out of the portal, what I saw was a colorful town. I looked at everything in front of me. My eyes lit up with excitement. It turned out to be a different world. And I was so curious about everything in this city. I was as happy as a countryman. But the demon lord looked at the things in front of him showed no interest because the changes in the outside world were not big. Looking at the thriving scene in front of me, this world is not as chaotic as the uncle said, but the Demon King attributed all this to the foundation he laid. Because the rules he set at the beginning were that everyone is equal, but I didn't care about it. Instead, the small stall in front of me caught my attention. The stall was filled with various handmade cloths. The little sister at the stall also told me that if you like it, you can buy it cheaper. But a fat pig kicked his handmade stall away. Brat, your church owes us protection fees and haven't paid it yet. How dare you set up a stall here? The stall owner's sister also argued her case. You have never protected us. Why should we pay you protection fees? And I looked at the scene in front of me. I immediately stopped the pighead. But Pighead wasn't born to be scared. He glared at me fiercely. Suddenly, I was at a loss, and I was a little at a loss. Looking at the devil in front of me, he began to turn a blind eye because he thought I was going to play with these ordinary people. Seeing that I didn't take any further action, he shouted at me again. I asked him what the hell he wanted to do. Seeing that the devil Elizabeth was unmoved, I immediately appealed to the surrounding crowd. Everyone, look, this pig-headed man is bullying a child. Come and condemn him. Condemn him. But the people around were silent. They just acted as indifferent onlookers. And the pighead looked at the indifferent crowd became even more arrogant and laughed at my naivety. He immediately ordered his minions to beat the man up and imprison the female. Hearing this, the devil immediately wanted to use the magic of destruction to kill him. The dark clouds in the sky also followed one after another, and thunder roared. Seeing such a big scene, the pig head, he trembled all over. Why did the weather suddenly change? But in order not to make things worse, I begged the devil not to do this. You'll destroy the whole town like this. Calm down, calm down. Just scare them. Why bother with ordinary people? Seeing me like this, the Demon King's expression also eased. For your sake, let it go for now. But just now, the powerful magic power that the Demon King Elizabeth was actually seen by one person, and this is the little sister who was setting up a stall. After the Demon King's tossing, Jutu was already scared. He pointed at the two tremblingly, but in order not to let the devil destroy the town, asking the pighead how much the booth cost. The pighead also said the amount, 2 months' worth, a total of 10 gold coins. Hearing that the demon lord only had 10 gold coins, couldn't help but chuckle. 10 gold coins made a group of people panic, which is really stupid. This made me very happy. As a great demon lord, must have a lot of gold coins. The Demon King was even more confident. I have countless treasures. Then you lend me some first. I'll sell the vegetables and pay you back when I get home. But the devil scolded me as an idiot. You use my food to exchange for those useless things. That's not okay. What's more, when I came to you, I didn't bring any treasures with me. But at this time, the pighead didn't want to see us love. Don't be so arrogant. Is there any? In desperation, I offered to use the local products in my bag as collateral. But the pighead angrily refused me. If the pig doesn't get angry, do you really think I'm a hairdryer? Before I finished speaking, Jutu was hit on the head by a large bag of gold coins. Jutu was about to yell at me, but he sensed the weight of the bag and immediately stopped cursing. A handsome man appeared in front of everyone and invited the boss to be his partner. The boss pushed his glasses in disbelief. "Partner, what can I do for you?" The man said there were too many people here. "Let's talk somewhere else. If things go well, it can also solve their financial difficulties." But when the man was talking to the boss, his eyes drifted to Elizabeth beside him. The experienced devil had already seen through everything. He immediately said he was not interested. But I, who have never seen the world, was anxious. It's not good to refuse like this. After all, he just helped us out. After a long time, the man led everyone to a tavern, telling everyone to be careful when they went in. Everyone followed the man and carefully entered the tavern. But then two conspicuous cats appeared, calling the devil a girl one by one. "The man beside you is obviously a loser. Come to me, old man." Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a little worried. But I didn't dare to refute him. But the devil gave a deathly glance, with murderous intent, with a strong murderous intent in his eyes. Standing in front of them, he questioned, "Do you dare to say that again?" The two were so scared that they peed their diapers and dared not speak again. The devil looked back at me. "It's all your fault for coming to this crappy place, wasting my time." In desperation, I quickly changed the subject and pointed ahead, saying, "We're here." The man opened the door and said, "Inside, I'm back," and was immediately surrounded by 4 women, calling him master one after another. They were so affectionate. The man also turned around and said to everyone, these women were his wives. Hearing this, I was shocked. "You're really playing a trick. They are all his wives." They entered Wuzhong, sat at the same table. At this time, the man introduced the people next to him to us. Next to him was Jiasha, a professional shield warrior. The cat girl next to him is the assassin Lok Lok, and the mage Jelly. The last one is Goria, is an amazing elf archer.